outer beauty. Real-time conversations with sisters in the Hebrew Israelite community, focused on healing our spirit, mind, and body, which will contribute to the healing of our nation as a whole. Sip a cup of tea, wear your favorite turban, tee, or tunic, and enjoy tea time with Shebrew royalty. Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty features remedies for inner healing and outer beauty. Real-time conversations with sisters in the Hebrew Israelite community, focused on healing our spirit, mind, and body, which will contribute to the healing of our nation as a whole. Sip a cup of tea, wear your favorite turban, tee, or tunic, and enjoy tea time with Shebrew Royalty. She's got the fruits of the spirit, love, joy, and peace. She's got long suffering, gentleness, and goodness, temperance, faith, and meekness too. Shebrew royalty. She's got the fruits of the spirit.
Shalom, sisters, come on in. Shalom, shalom, Shebrews. Shalom, come on in with your beautiful royal selves. Come on in. Come on in. Please, 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 as you come in, please do me a favor. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Hit the notification bell. My lighting is a little bit dark, isn't it? Can you all see me okay? Can you all see me okay? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Let me know. Can you see me okay? Shalom, shalom. Sister Didi is here. Sister AHAYAH is here. Come on in. As you come in, please, please, please drop something in the comment box so I know that you're here and so I can give you a shout out. But give me a thumbs up if the lighting is okay. On my end, it looks like it may be a little bit dark. Let me know. Let's see what you're saying there. Okay, Sister AHAYAH says it's okay. It's perfect. All right. Shalom, shalom. Sister Zion is here. Shalom, sis. Shalom. Come on in. Sister Diane is here. Diane number 2. Yes, I have 2 Dianes in. Yes, all praises, all praises. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let us get this royal party started, this tea party started. All right. Let's start off like we always do. Sister Carla is here. Shalom, sis. Sister Carla, shalom. Good to see you. Good to see you, sis. Yeah, oh my gosh, y'all are showing up and showing out this tonight. Yes, you are. Thank you. Thank you so much for your promptness. So before I go any further, let us give a huge shout out to the Almighty. I am that I am, AHAYAH, the God of the Hebrews and the Shebrews, in the name of his Son, YASHAYA. whom the world calls Jesus Christ. Yeah, we always have to give him a huge shout out for bringing us through, the past week into a new week, and for blessing us to be able to come together again. I am your hostess, Kwala Yakaka, and I humbly thank you for being on this broadcast with me tonight. Yes, let's talk about your week. My week was fabulous. Sister Princess is here. Shalom says, my week was absolutely great. Yes, it was. So I just thank the Most High for a beautiful week. Let's see who else is here. Sister Baara Anawa. Sister Dominique, good to see you. Good to see you. So how was your Shabbat? Shabbat was so amazing yesterday. It was beautiful yesterday. It really was. It really was a blessed Shabbat. Yes. So let's get these disclaimers and everything out of the way, because like I said, this entire month is just going to be fire. That's all that I can say. So before going any further, let us talk about what tea time with Shebrew royalty is not. Tea time with Shebrew royalty is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. We get it. We understand. We're not mad at you. Anyhow, if you come upon this channel and you realize that, you don't agree with our beliefs, our lifestyle, that's okay too. I encourage you to just continue to search YouTube, and I am sure that you will eventually find your perfect cup of tea and your perfect flavor. But what I ask is that you not leave any derogatory comments in the comment box, because that would be distasteful. And we just thank you in advance for doing so. But if you're not sure, if you're kind of on the fence and you're not quite sure if we're your cup of tea, I encourage you to just stick around, and who knows, you may just acquire a taste for what tea time with Shebrew royalty has to offer. Okay? Although I am a certified physician assistant and functional nutrition informed professional, and I will be touching on topics of health and wellness on my broadcasts, we will not be utilizing this platform to diagnose or treat anyone's illnesses. If you are experiencing any medical problems whatsoever, please consult your healthcare practitioner. And the views that you will hear on this channel are the views of myself and my guests, and not those of any particular church or organization. And one more thing, if you would like to be a guest on Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty, please send me an email to shebrewroyaltybiz@gmail.com and include a brief description of your business, your product, or service that you provide, or a topic that you are interested in co-hosting. I would love to hear from you and brainstorm on how we can collaborate to help heal and strengthen Shebrews throughout the four corners of the earth, which will ultimately contribute to the healing of our nation as a whole. Who else is here? Let's see. Sister Lillian is here. Shalom, sis. Shalom. So good to see you. Shalom. Oh boy, you all are really showing up tonight. Showing up and showing out. The water for being on time. I really, really appreciate it. So now let's talk about my guardian doc. My guardian doc. Every week I show this video just because this is one of my sponsors, and this is a really excellent service to have. And I have some amazing testimonials, and I'm hoping to get someone on the show that will talk about their experience with my guardian doc. So in the meantime, let's just take a look at this video. Let me see. Give me just a second here. Here we go.
Life can throw unexpected curveballs. When it comes to your family's health, you need someone in your corner. Introducing My Guardian Doc, your virtual medicine program provides compassionate medical guidance and world-class care around the clock. Within minutes, talk to a licensed physician. We are My Guardian Doc. All our doctors are guided by our Patient Safety and Care Equity Council, whose mission is to ensure you receive safe and equitable care. For just $27 per month, your entire household gains access to a team of dedicated medical professionals. Whether it's just sniffles or sneezes, medication refills, or a question about diagnosis or treatment, or the need to speak to a behavioral health specialist in the privacy of your home, no concern is too big or too small. My Guardian Doc is here to help you. No surprise fees, no hidden costs, just quality care when you need it most. With My Guardian Doc, for just $27 per month, your entire household's associated benefits include immediately lower micromort count, which is your 1 in a million chance of dying, on-demand access to doctors, reduce healthcare costs, improve healthcare outcomes, decreased visits to the hospital or emergency room, increase your lifespan, and gain peace of mind knowing your family's health is always protected. From urgent care, primary care, medical guidance, prescription discounts, hospital bill negotiation, and much more, My Guardian Doc is here for you every step of the way. Millions of people have expressed a need for My Guardian Doc. Join the fastest growing subscription service. Visit myguardiandoc.com to subscribe today, because your family's health deserves the best.
All right, so that was My Guardian Doc. And for more information, like the video says, please visit myguardiandoc.com. And for more information, and also if you choose to subscribe, please go to the link that is in the description box below this video. Do not subscribe on the link that is on the website address. There's a special link that is in the description box for specifically for Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty viewers. So please do that. If you choose to sign up for the services, make sure that you're signing up on the correct link. Okay? All right. Let's keep this moving. If you haven't already done so, hit the like button, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, phone a friend, let them know that we are live. I hope that you are wearing your favorite turban, tea, tunic, or dress. And that being said, let's sip some tea and have healthy talk. Let's get this royal tea party started. Okay? So what is your cup of tea, sisters? What is your cup of tea tonight? Or your glass of tonic? Or are you drinking water? What are you having tonight? What are you having tonight? Talk to me. You should already know that I'm going to ask this question, right? You should be dropping that in the comment box as soon as you come in. What are you sipping on tonight? Sister Jean, shalom, shalom. So good to see you. Sister Diane says, well, if you added a bit more light, it would be all right. And I am going to do just that, Sister Diane. I am going to play this video because my cup of tea tonight is blueberry tea. And of course, many of you have had blueberries, so you know blueberries are absolutely delicious and healthy. So we're going to watch this video by Food for Health. Drink a glass of blueberry tea for 7 days, and this will happen to your body. So let us watch this video. And while you're watching the video, I'm going to try and hook up some more lighting, okay? Looks like you said some, let's see, Sister Diane. You said still hanging in with hibiscus and coconut, lemon, and honey tea. Well, that's awesome. That is awesome. Yes, that's some good stuff. And Ahab Karad said just a good old glass of water, and I am not mad at you for that. Stay hydrated. Stay hydrated, my sisters. So let me get this video up here for you all, and I am going to lighten things up a bit for you. Give me just a second here. Look at that delicious cup of blueberry tea.
Blueberries are one of the most popular fruits consumed around the world. Not only are they pleasant in taste, but they also provide numerous health benefits for our bodies. One popular way of obtaining these health benefits is consuming blueberry tea, which is loaded with antioxidants and can boost immunity. Now, let's discuss some of the amazing health benefits of consuming blueberry tea regularly. First, blueberry tea is an antioxidant and nutrient powerhouse. It contains many types of vitamins and minerals in high concentrations. Blueberry tea is an excellent source of vitamin C, vitamin K, manganese, vitamin B6, thiamine, and copper. It also contains anthocyanins, gallic acid, and other potent antioxidants. Consuming blueberry tea is also great for boosting our immune system and helping to reduce the risk of certain illnesses and diseases. This is often attributed to this tea's great levels of vitamin C and many antioxidants. The vitamin C in blueberry tea helps to stimulate the production of white blood cells, and along with the other nutrients and antioxidants, eliminates free radicals that can lead to illness and compromise the immune system. Blueberry tea can also help to improve overall digestion and help get rid of certain digestive ailments. This is because a potent and powerful antioxidant known as gallic acid can help to reduce inflammation throughout the stomach. As well, blueberry tea can help to promote the growth of good bacteria in the gut, while also reducing symptoms associated with constipation, bloating, and diarrhea. It can also help to support heart health many different ways and reduce the risk of developing heart disease. Due to the good levels of potassium and antioxidants, it acts as a natural vasodilator, which can help to reduce and regulate blood pressure while also lowering the risk of developing atherosclerosis. The high amounts of proanthocyanidins are also helpful in this regard. Lastly, surprising to some, but consuming blueberry tea regularly can help to improve bone density. This is because it contains many bone-healthy nutrients, such as vitamin K and manganese. The healthy minerals found in it can also help prevent bone-related ailments, such as osteoporosis. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, comment, and share. If you would like to hear about more healthy foods and food and beauty tips, please subscribe to the channel. Have a great and healthy day.
Hey guys, it's Margaret from Days Well Spent, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make the most refreshing mixed berry iced tea. You're going to need some blackberries, raspberries, and blueberries. You'll also need some tea bags. I like to use Lipton, but use your favorite. Something to mash the berries with, a potato masher, or a fork works just fine. And then you'll also need some water to brew your tea with. So for the tea bags, you're either going to need 3 family-sized tea bags or 10 to 12 small tea bags, depending on how strong you like your tea. If the tags are on them, go ahead and remove the tags and then tie your tea bags together if they have a string. Okay, so we're going to begin by heating up our water. This water is already hot.
As though
I have 2 quarts in here. And you're going to want to use more water if you have a larger pitcher. We're going to take the tea bags that we prepared, drop them in, and the burner is off. And I'm going to go ahead and
all right. Oh my gosh, I am back. And the video ran over, and I still have not gotten my light together. So let's see. Give me just another second. Give me just another second to get this light fixed here. Give me a quick minute to get this light in together because I want things right. I want it right tonight. So give me just a moment. I am going to just give us a pause here for a minute, okay? I'll be right back.
Tea Time with She Brew Royalty features remedies for inner healing and outer beauty. Real-time conversations with sisters in the Hebrew Israelite community, focused on healing our spirit, mind, and body, which will contribute to the healing of our nation as a whole. Sip a cup of tea, wear your favorite turban, tee, or tunic, and enjoy Tea Time with She Brew Royalty. Tea Time with She Brew Royalty features remedies for inner healing and outer beauty. Real-time conversations with sisters in the Hebrew Israelite community, focused on healing our spirit, mind, and body, which will contribute to the healing of our nation as a whole. Sip a cup of tea, wear your favorite turban, tee, or tunic, and enjoy Tea Time with She Brew Royalty.
Okay, sisters, talk to me. I hope this is better because I sure have this bright spotlight just shining on me right now. So speak to me. Let me know. Is this better? I hope it is. On my end, it still looks a little dark. I'm actually using a different camera this week. So I don't know if that is the issue. So hopefully this works. We're just going to move forward with this because we have an exciting show coming up and I don't want to put this off any longer. So wow. Last week's show was just fire. Wasn't it fire? Sister Zion, Sister Kira were just so amazing. What did you all think about all that content? What did you learn? What did you learn last week? Drop me some comments in the comment box. I know last week was just absolute fire. Let's see. Sister Jean says, I love that song. The water, sis, the water. So that being said, it is showtime. I truly believe that tonight's show, just like last week's, and the others to follow this month will be just life-changing for many of us. Everyone that I've spoken to about this month's topic expressed excitement, relief, and gratitude that we are finally here. We're finally talking about these things that, you know, a lot of these things really, really matter to a lot of us, right? These topics are just, they're so life-changing. So it started with the Decluttering series, and here we are now. So welcome to the second Sunday in October 2024. This month, our topic is Broken Toys, the series, as you well know. And last week, we delved into Broken Toys, picking up the pieces. And the feedback that I received about that show was very positive. And again, I was told that you are anticipating the other shows that are in this series. So each Sunday, we will continue to feature guests that specialize in recognizing and treating both victims and perpetrators of violence and trauma. We will also be welcoming a panel of guests, men and women, that are willing to speak their truth about their journey from being victims and perpetrators of violence or trauma that contributed to their and others' brokenness. And now they are survivors and victors. So this is an exciting month. So tonight's show, Broken Toy Soldiers interview with a forensic psychologist, is going to be, I truly believe, the most impactful show on Tea Time to date. And I know I said that about last week's show, but you can be the judge of that, right? What I know for sure is that you definitely won't be disappointed. So I suggest that you phone a friend, invite them so that they don't miss out on this show. So without further ado, let's see here. Do I have some? Sister Diane says, yes, last week was great. Loved all the insight from the star-studded panel. All right, we had a 5-star from last week. Yes, all praises, all praises. So that being said, without further ado, I am going to introduce my special guest tonight, Mr. David McJimson. Let me bring him in from behind the curtains here. Shalom.
Shalom, sis. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom. How are you?
It's a pleasure being here. I'm happy to be here, and I'm doing just fine. Had a busy day, but everything is good.
I know you had a busy day. When are your days never busy? That's my question.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, when are your days never busy?
Oh, hey, you got me on that one.
So let me introduce you to our audience. So Mr. McJimson is a PhD of forensic psychology candidate at Walden University, specializing in victimology. He's a criminal intelligence analyst and member of the Global Society of Homeland and National Security Professional. His academic achievement has provided him membership into numerous national honor societies. He established McLyons Research Group, LLC, in April 2023 and operates as the CEO, criminal intelligence analyst, and executive protection specialist in a wide range of personal protection training and operations. A resourceful, flexible, innovative, and enthusiastic, experienced professional who possesses a considerable amount of knowledge in law enforcement and military operations regarding threats, strategies, risk assessments in personal protection, investigation, fugitive recovery, emergency management, counterinsurgency, counter-surveillance, and counterintelligence. My, oh my, wow. Mr. McJimson is a proven leader with over 30 years of experience in security operations, coordinating, planning, and organizing a wide range of operations pertaining to the safety and security of others. Please, please, please help me welcome Mr. McJimson to Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty. Sisters, give him a huge high five, a clap, hand clap. Let him know that you are so thankful for him coming out tonight and sharing his knowledge with us. So thank you for being here, sir.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. I hope I can help as much as I can.
Well, I'm sure you will. So is it okay if I call you David?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. That's
Okay.
fine.
So that certainly is an impressive bio. It certainly is impressive. And it's such an honor to have you on Tea Time tonight. And my guests are so very excited for this episode. And we've been eager and we've been fired up for tonight's show. So, hey, let us jump in. Let us jump in. Let me just make this disclaimer again. Let me reiterate. The views that you will hear on this broadcast tonight are strictly those of myself and my guests, and not those of any particular church or organization. No one on this panel is a spiritual advisor or counselor. Our views are based on our personal and or professional experiences, and we encourage anyone that is in need of spiritual counseling or advice to seek counseling through the leadership of your church. Also, the information that will be presented tonight will not be suitable for children, so please use discretion if there are children in your home. So that being said, well, David, I really don't even know where to begin because there's just so much that we can talk about. So let's start off by you telling us what a day or more in the life of a victimologist, criminologist, forensic psychologist looks like. What does that look like?
That's a good question. I would have to say it's a day like any other day in anyone else's life. If you're married, we know what that's like. It's good. It's ups and downs. Children's. I got 4 of them, and they keep me busy. And besides the children, my dog's trying to get my attention, and I have all these other responsibilities that I have to deal with daily. So sometimes I hardly even have time to do anything for myself. But when I do, I spend a lot of my time doing a lot of research in relation to a great deal of things in criminology, victimology, and from the aspect of the forensic psychology purview, as well as forensic science. So that's a lot. So I don't even know where to begin, to be honest. Please forgive me.
You're wondering how do I do this?
I did.
You're probably wondering now that you're listening to yourself say all of this, how am I doing all of this?
Yeah.
Well, you're doing it. You are doing it. So let's talk about the victim. Explain the victim perpetrator connection.
Okay, then. One thing that I come across is that when you're dealing with victim and victimization, people like to, say they're the victim, and they like to say how they've been victimized by others and things of that nature, which I don't discount, because in reality, to some extent, we all are victims. To some extent, we all been victimized. But there's something interesting about this victimization and being a victim that most of us, I don't think, realize.
Okay.
So in the course of my schooling and education, I was writing a paper or working on a paper, and I decided that I would go back and look at the etymology of the word victim or victimology. So when I looked at the etymology of it, it's a Latin word which is victima. That word translated as a sacrifice.
Wow.
Now, that was interesting. I was like, what? A sacrifice?
That is interesting.
Through the course of your studies in the university, that is not mentioned at all. What is mentioned is mostly about the traumatization that a person or individual experienced through being a victim or being victimized or doing something criminal to another individual. So when I looked at it, I went, a sacrifice? So could the definition with victimology truly be the science of how sacrifices are chosen,
Oh,
made.
wow.
I mean, the etymology of it is sacrifice. So you have to look at that. When you see that, you have to look at it differently. At least I know I did. I had to look at it differently. And I had to ask myself some questions. First of all, I said, how can a person be a sacrifice? And who would be a sacrifice for anything or anyone? And when you mean by sacrifice, what type of sacrifice? To what extent do we make ourselves sacrifice, or do we? And when you go back and look at that, you realize that throughout the course of your life, somewhere, you either directly or indirectly put yourself in that situation. For example, I'll give you an example. A young boy growing up in the neighborhood, father is missing, is gone, a broken home. You're looking for that strong manhood to guide you throughout your life. You can't find that. So what do young boys normally do? They turn to the other individuals, young men in the neighborhood, who they find to be successful. For example, like gangs.
Right.
Well, when you do that, by definition, you've already made yourself a victim.
You volunteered for that, yes.
Yeah, you've already made yourself a victim through that, through seeking that out. Because that particular gang that you would like to be a part is an enemy to another gang. So therefore, you are a victim now to the other parties.
Oh, wow.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yes. So to some point, it depends, in our lives, we do these things and it just doesn't, I don't think we realize it or see it that way. And I know that I didn't. I didn't see it that way until I started doing my research. And like I said, I came up with that etymology of it. And that changed everything on how I look at the world and look at everything around me. It even made me go back and look at my years in the military. I did 8 to 10 years in the Army, as well as 8 to 10 years in the Navy. So it made me look at everything, even contract work and other things I did overseas and other places. It just made me look at my entire life, past, present, and even in relation to my future, differently.
Absolutely. And that would, now that you know the true meaning, right?
Yes.
Wow. That when you told me that when we had that conversation and out at Tabernacles.
Yes.
And when you told me that really got me to thinking about, like you said, my past and the things that I experienced in my past, which at some point tonight we'll delve into a little bit of that. And how now, instead of using the term victim, when you change it to sacrifice, it just takes on a whole different meaning, a whole different look. Not just from the perspective of, okay, did I volunteer for this? Did I choose to be a sacrifice? But did the person who was victimizing me, the perpetrator, did they realize that they were committing a sacrifice?
Yes, exactly. So I don't think any of us,
none of us think of that.
Yeah, I don't think any of us really realize that, because from the aspect of the other person, you would say that person's a criminal. He's a criminal. So you have to ask the question now, what makes that individual a criminal? And when you look at it, he's a criminal or she's a criminal or they're a criminal because at some point of their life, somewhere, they too have been victimized. Or been selected or have chosen indirectly or directly to be a sacrifice. So you got this cycle just continuing. And as a result of that, you have a broad spectrum of traumatization that's taking place.
This vicious cycle.
Yeah, it's a cycle. So what's the end result of it? There's just simply no ending to it.
Wow. So yes,
And
on last,
until, at least
go
I can
ahead.
say, until you get a understanding of what's really happening.
And you can now choose not to be a sacrifice.
Exactly.
And you can also make the choice, if you're the one that is sacrificing, the perpetrator, you can now make the choice to not sacrifice someone else.
Exactly.
But with knowledge comes power, right?
Yes.
Okay. So like on last week's show, I spoke about a little bit about how the Broken Toys series came to be. I don't know if you had the opportunity to glance through the video from last week with your busy schedule. Probably not.
I apologize. I did
No,
not.
no apology necessary.
But I will go back and look at it. I will.
Yeah. I talked about how we were on the Decluttering series. Decluttering your life. And it started off with the physical decluttering, going through your home, going through your garage, and decluttering your life. And then it went from there into the mental and emotional detox and decluttering your mental and emotional self. And after that, after the second show, I had one of the sisters had called me up and said, wow, these are the conversations that we need to be having, because now we really need to delve into what are we decluttering? Why do we have the need to declutter mental and emotionally? And no one is talking about that.
Yes.
And then this came to be as I was laying in my bed, and just the Holy Spirit, I heard the words broken toys. All of this information was just downloading into my conscious. And so that's where Broken Toys came from. And it just seems to be growing and growing and growing, because there's just so much brokenness in our society, in our lives.
Yes. And I hear what you're saying. And you know what's interesting when you say broken toys? That when you said that, the question came to my mind, why toys?
I'll tell you why toys. That was also revealed to me. I'm laying in the bed, and the conversation that I had with the sister woke me up in the middle of the night.
Yes.
And it started playing in my head. And then suddenly a lot of stuff from my past just started going through my mind. And that's when I heard broken toys. And then it was, so many of you have been toyed with. You've been played with.
Yes,
you've been, and in the process of being toyed with and played with, just like a toy, when a child first gets a toy, it's brand new and everything is, oh, it's wonderful, and you love this toy. Oh my gosh, I've been wanting this toy for a while. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. And then over time, this toy starts getting old. It's not brand new and nice looking, and next thing you know, it has a broken this and a broken that. The leg is broken, or the wheel falls off, and then this toy is discarded. It's thrown in a box somewhere or given away, and so many of us have had those experiences, whether it's through relationships with the opposite sex, or even those of us who had traumatic experiences with parents, the military. Once you get broken in the military, and hence the broken toy soldiers. Once you get broken in the military, you're now discarded. You're no longer of any use. Exactly. And so that's where the broken toys came from.
Yes, yes. And you are so right in relation to the military, especially because many of our people, as well as others, they go to the military, and to somewhere along the line, they become broken. That's definitely true. I've talked to a great deal of military personnel, veterans, who share a lot of their stories with me about what they encountered in the military and how they were treated in certain aspects. It was just, my take from the whole thing is everything I said from the beginning. Victimized. They were victimized. There was a sacrifice for whatever purpose. And
Right.
today, the majority of the people in the military, they're simply looking for someone to help them get through what they're dealing with. They're coping. They're trying to cope with what they have experienced, and or just better yet, just completely, they're looking for an opportunity to find a way out of what they've experienced.
And it's like my mother used to make this statement: you're jumping out of the frying pan into the fire.
Exactly. Yeah.
And many of us never, I know I didn't think that, when I joined the military, I didn't think, okay, you're jumping out of the frying pan, because I really wasn't in a frying pan, but I sure enough jumped into the fire.
Yes.
I sure did. So as you know,
I did too. I know what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. And so many of us have this story. And as you know, I'm an Army veteran.
Yeah.
And I'm also a physician assistant that specialized in psychiatry for many years. And so that's why when I had that conversation with you, it was so interesting, because I knew you were prior military, but I didn't know about your background as a forensic psychologist. And so when I had that conversation with you out in during tabernacles, I shared with you some of my experience about being a survivor of domestic violence.
Yes.
And not a victim, but a victor. Mm-hmm. And my trauma occurred while I was on active duty in the Army. And what I learned is that my experience was not uncommon at all. Mm. Of course, when you're going through it, you think that it's just you. You're an isolated case, because you have that tunnel vision. You can't see what everybody else is going through because you're too focused on surviving. And so throughout the years, only by the grace of God, I was able to do the work that was necessary in order to get me to a place of healing and forgiveness of both my husband and myself. And I started paying it forward to helping both victims and perpetrators of violence to start their journey of healing and forgiveness. So that's why this show is so very important to me. But after talking to you, before talking to you, actually, there were so many questions, because remember, I started throwing all these questions out at you.
Yes.
Because there were still some things that were just in the back of my mind, the why did this happen? How can someone that you love or love you end up being so cruel? And so based on your background, I had decided at that time to talk to you about those aspects of my life so that I can probably get a deeper meaning. And what stuck out was that sacrifice.
Yeah.
That really stuck out for me.
Yes.
Because that's exactly what I feel like. I felt now that you've explained it, I felt like I was sacrificed.
Yes. And then it brings us to the point where we begin to ask the question, did I choose this? Mm-hmm. Was I that indirect? I mean, how did this happen? And I think you touched on a very important point. It all begins with asking that question, why? And you'll find that many don't do that.
Hmm.
They will not go into the why, asking the whys. And sad to say, from what I've experienced, many, they don't even want to know.
And I've run across that too with a lot
That's
of
sad.
my patients.
Yes.
And they don't want to know because could it be that, like you said, I played a role in this? But that's the only way that you can heal, is to
Exactly.
really
I agree
delve
with you.
into the role that you played. And that was something that I really had to come to terms with,
Yes.
is because when I was in my victim mindset, it was all about he did this and he did this and he did this and he did this, right? And I never sat back to really think about, well, what role did you play?
Yes.
Because until you recognize the role that you played, you will continue to be a victim.
Yes.
You will be a perpetual victim. Because if you,
that's right.
right? Because if you chose to play a role, you can now make a conscious decision to say, I'm not going to play that role again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it all comes down to simply being totally truthful to ourselves about everything. And I think that's one of the things that we say that we want to do that. Many of us say that. But I've found through my experience, many of us, we don't want to do that. Because for you to do that, that means you got to be totally transparent with yourself about you first and foremost.
Amen.
Before you try to be transparent with yourself with someone else. So the bulk of the whole thing has to begin with self. And I think that's an area where most of us just don't want to go. But in order to get the relief that we're really looking for, we're going to have to go there.
Right.
We have to go there, and we have to face the things that we don't want to face, which is, again, self.
Self. Because it's so much easier. It's just so much easier to blame somebody else.
Exactly. That is true.
It's so much easier. And not saying that they did not play a huge part in that.
Absolutely.
But knowing, even if it's just a small part that you played, owning that small part, and now you can say, well, if this opportunity presents itself again, then that role, I won't be volunteering for that role. I won't sign up for that role.
Absolutely.
Because I already know what that role leads to.
But it's, the interesting thing that I found out is that the root of this whole problem is far deeper than many of us realize. And it goes far back, way back, from the time of, even before the time of slavery. But it goes far back. And it comes to what we have to present day. Even when you look at it from those aspects of back in the time of slavery and colonialism and during the time of the Civil War and Jim Crow, even when you look at it from those angles, you're still going to find that regardless how things may have been, we, in some aspect, chose to be a part of that, if I can say it like that. And I know that might sound cruel. Some listening and say, "Oh, my parents didn't choose to be this and this." Then I get it. You're right. But if we honestly be transparent and look at the situation, we'll be able to see what we need to see. Cause this thing with victimization and criminology, it's a spectrum that goes both angles. It's not a one-way thing. It goes in both directions. And the bad thing about it, the ones who have to suffer the most through this, regardless of what direction it go, come are the children from both angles.
Yes.
And so it's not about blaming someone. It's about trying to find out what can we do to understand this victimization in order to understand the criminology as well in relation to that. Well, I'll tell you something that's interesting.
Okay.
At one time, criminology and victimology was one subject together. There was no separation between these two. There
really?
was no separation between the two. It was just one science together until sometime later in the 1900s, around the 1960s and 80s, victimology, became a new branch of study. But it still is intrinsically a part of criminology. And here's the interesting: criminology also is a part of victimology.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear about criminology and criminalization, victimology is always that's always going to be prevalent there. When you hear the same about victimology, criminology is always going to be prevalent. So in our world, even going back and up to this present day, these two, if I can say construct or concept, have been the main features that has been involved in a great deal, if not all, of what we call trauma.
Right. Do you know, did they explain why the split?
Well, it wasn't so much there was a split. It's that they realized that these two were very interesting branches.
Okay.
They were extremely interesting. So now, victimology is a science that deals strictly with what we say. Even though this victimology has to deal with the trauma, how it affects families, children's, how it affects the individual who's committing the victimization or criminology. This is what the studies have come out to be about. But like I said, when I looked at it from the root aspect, I had to look at this thing entirely different.
Right.
Victima, a sacrifice? I had to ask the question, who in their right mind would choose to be a sacrifice? I don't think anyone would choose to be a sacrifice. However, our choices, and what we say or do, that in and of itself can make you a victim.
Make you a victim. Yes.
Make you a victim. A sacrifice.
Wow.
I'll tell you what I did. I had to look at this I'll give you an example. When you deal with law enforcement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they read you your Miranda rights, they tell you clearly this. Anything you say or do can and will be used against you in a court of law.
Right.
Now, you heard what I just said, right?
I heard exactly what you said.
But yet, many of us will still choose to speak. And then, when they have to go to court and these things are brought up, whatever they say, they'll say, well, I had the right to remain silent, but you're right. You do have the right. But the question now remains, did you exercise that right?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what the other party does. It doesn't matter what the other party does, whomever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
The question here is, did you exercise that right that you have to remain silent? And as a result of not understanding what was just said and paying attention to that, you, directly or indirectly, however you want to look at it, or both, you gave up that right.
You gave up that right. Mm-hmm.
When the officer or whomever said that to you, at that moment, you had the opportunity to just be quiet and say nothing, absolutely nothing at all from that moment on. But that officer may have come back to you and say, I would just like to know, where were you going tonight? And the fact that you spoke, guess what you just did? You gave up that right.
You gave up that right. You
You gave up that right. So now, since you gave up that right, anything you say or do can and will be used against you. You see what I'm trying to use an example to hope that everyone can understand where we're taking this.
Absolutely.
So for a person to say that, hey, I'm the victim in this whole thing, and I blah 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 blah. Wait, hold up. Did you play a role in that? No, I didn't play a role in that. Well, was the Miranda rights read to you? Yes. Why did you say something after it was read to you? Well, he asked me a question, and I didn't think it was a big issue, so I answered the question. Told him I was headed for my friend's house. But wait, hold up. The question was, what was stated to you was this: you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say or do can and will be used against you in a court of law.
Yeah. And that's what's happening right now. What you said or did is being used against you in a court of law. You're not a victim.
That's right.
You volunteered.
I think if we all, at some point in our life, step outside of our emotions and our feelings, and begin to look at and listen to what's being stated to us from a logical perspective, we'll begin to deal with a lot of things differently. If that mean anything to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm ready to hear what you got to chime in on this.
No, absolutely. Because I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, what would make someone do that is fear. Right?
Absolutely.
That emotion, fear. If I don't say anything, what are they going to do to me?
And that's
if I don't answer the questions, am I looking hostile?
Yes, and fear is a very powerful emotion.
Fear is very powerful.
Yes,
and it will cause you to make some very unwise decisions.
It's absolutely.
And I think that would be the main emotion at that point, because just by dealing with someone that is in that position of authority, because even going back into the military and thinking about when your first sergeant is screaming in your face and that fear.
I definitely remember those days.
Yes, and they are telling you to do things that if you read your regulations, you know that is against the regulation. Yeah. But you are so fearful to not do that, whatever it is that you're being told to do, because you're afraid of the repercussions. And that's one thing that I learned really quickly in the Army.
Yes.
Is knowing my regulations, reading my regulations, and knowing when someone is coming to me, I don't care who they are. If it was my first sergeant or, the lieutenant or even the colonel, my response was, with all due respect, sir, if you can show me in my regulation where I have to do that, but according to SOP such and such and such, I don't have to do that.
Yeah, but you see the logic behind that? It's not so much a logic in the sense what most people think. You understand the regulations,
right?
And you make sure that you stick to the purview of those regulations, because you understand that those regulations are not based on feelings and emotion. Right. And by doing so, those regulations is going to give you a clear picture of your rights, even in relation to the military, and that regardless of that person's rank, that person's position, your regulations say this is how you must conduct yourself and respond, and you don't have to respond any other way regardless of what they may say or do. See? And that's where I would think that a lot of our safety will be if we understood.
It's about knowing the rules of whatever
absolutely
situation you're in.
Yes.
Knowing the rules of, if you're in the military, knowing the rules on your job. I'm always asking when I start a job, where are the rules and regulations?
Yes.
Because I need to know how to move while I'm here.
Yes.
And that came, I thank the Most High once again, from my military background. I joined the military at 17 years old. So that's where,
did too.
look at that. That's where my training come from, right? And
Yeah.
you know, in the Army, they tell you, if it's not in black and white, it doesn't exist.
That's right.
That was drilled in my head. So I
Yeah.
always need to have something in black and white.
Yeah.
And so when you operate in that manner, and that's even with, let's take this even a step further, going into a marriage, going into a relationship. And so many times we go into relationships and we don't really sit down and talk to that individual and get to know what their expectations are, and they're not trying to know what your expectations are. And then it's not until you're both in so deep that you are now learning, well, you know, my views and your views don't line up. And so now you're operating in a certain way, and this person is expecting you to operate in the way that they expect you to operate, and vice versa. And then that's where the clash comes in, because
You know what's interesting
Mm-hmm.
that I found after I was doing a paper some time back, and I was doing an interview to do a paper. I was just randomly asking people questions in the streets. I asked a lot of people. I say, I have a question for you. They said, yes. I said, what is the foundation of a relationship? I mean, people came up with all kinds of things. And when I began to explain to them that the foundation of a relationship is communication,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people were shocked. I said, well, take a look at it. If there's no communication between you and that individual, what do you really have?
Nothing.
Nothing. The communication is what binds the relationship. You have a relationship based on communication.
Mm-hmm.
However that communication may be between you and that individual. But
Mm-hmm.
when you look at it, it's communication nevertheless. Whether it's something that's saying verbally or something acted out, whatever, but it's still nevertheless it's a communication that both parties have agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
But without that communication, whatever it may be, what do you have?
Right.
You have nothing.
Right.
So my point here is this: even within that purview of that communication, you still have to, as you say, there's structure even in that. You have to pay attention to the structure within that communication or agreement with one another, because in that you find your safe haven. But think of the fact that you don't pay any attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't pay attention to that to everything. I'll put it to you like this. I'm going to look at this from both angles, male and female. Okay. We're going to look at it from both angles. A woman would meet a man, and he's handsome, nice looking, whatever, and that's something that has a tendency to overwhelm a woman when she meet a man, especially when he looks handsome, nice. But she should be paying attention to other things more importantly, to determine things, and vice versa, the male also. And because we don't pay attention to those things that line up with our values, guess what we do? We throw our values out for that moment of joy or feeling pleasure of that person being beautiful or handsome, and we find ourselves in a situation now that we really didn't want to be in. Hence, we now a victim.
Right.
You know what, an interesting book that I think everyone should get?
Okay.
The name of this book is called The Gift of Fear. The Gift
of Fear.
Right. The Gift of Fear by
Okay.
Gavin DeBecker. Gavin DeBecker,
Okay.
The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. Everything in that book is true.
Wow.
Everything in the book, it happened. It actually happened. And he described the victimization and the criminology in such a way that anyone who looked at this, they can clearly see how they directly or indirectly made themselves a sacrifice.
A sacrifice.
Yes.
Sisters, I hope you all are writing the name of that book down.
The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker.
Okay.
Matter of fact, let me see if I got a copy and I can let them see what it looked like.
Okay, awesome. Wow, wow, wow. This is getting good here. Sister Diane says, meaning something can either be an offering or a sacrifice. We each might have a predisposition to become a sacrifice offering for deep and sometimes unknown reasons. I have learned some of my predispositions from looking at events from my ancestors. I learned from the military that the regulations are used on the lower ranks and different rules or consequences are not used the same way for different or higher ranks. Power can change rules. And Sister Zion says, yes, got it. Okay.
So this is what it looks like. This is the book here.
Okay.
The book here.
The Gift of Fear
by Gavin DeBecker.
Okay. I have to get that book.
And this is when I went through my training as a sexual protection specialist. And for those of you who don't know what sexual protection specialist, most people will say they're bodyguards. Well, a sexual protection specialist is not a bodyguard. A specialist, he's someone who's well versed in the protection of others.
Okay.
From many angles. This is one of the this is one of the requirements that we had to study in relation to training. This is one of the books. This is an awesome book, everyone. Especially you ladies, men's, whatever. I would say everyone should have this book right here.
I just found it on Amazon.
Yeah, they should have this book in their home. Children, everyone should read this. And keep in mind, everything in here really happened. It's not a fairy tale or anything like that. It all really did happen. He interviews all the individuals, or individuals come to him to speak to them about their trauma and situations that they encounter. And what he does, he listens to them and he asks them questions. What was it about that you did not pay attention to? And he helped guide them back to their situation so they can see how they directly or indirectly agreed to what took place.
Yes.
And by them being able to see that, they were able to move past that trauma that they experienced in their life and begin to heal and grow in an entirely different way.
And that's so interesting that you said that. That's so interesting that you said that, because that was going to be one of my questions on the back end of this. Is how do we prevent ourselves from becoming victims? And it states right here on the cover of the book, it's survival signals that protect us from violence. So just this book alone, and what you said makes so much sense, because with my history, that is the route that I had to take. I had to go back to the beginning. What did I do to allow this to happen? And a lot of times when we're dealing with victimization, like you said, we don't want to ask that question, but there was a door that I opened to allow this person in. And I'll talk about that later on, because I was given fair warning. Let me just put it that way.
Yes.
But I chose to ignore the warning that I got.
Yes.
So,
and you know what's interesting? It's interesting you say that, because the opening of this book, the first story in this book, has to do with a young woman that you just described. She did all those things that you saying that she did those things.
Wow. She went back into her past, and yes, that's where it has to begin.
Yes.
It has to begin at the beginning. You have to take that, and it's a tough road.
Yes.
It really is, because so many times we just want to ignore it and pretend as though it didn't happen, and then you're wondering why you're still experiencing these things. And it's because when you have that victim spirit, that victim mindset, you will always attract a perpetrator.
Absolutely.
Because they need each other to coexist.
And vice versa, you actually will become the perpetrator as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Wow. So I wanted to talk about how military service can magnify or contribute to traumas that can lead to brokenness of soldiers from a physical, emotional, and mental standpoint. And how the breaking of the soldier can now cause the breaking of the entire family.
Yeah.
Because we see that often. I know you've seen a plethora of that.
Yes. You know, that's a tough one. That is really a tough one. And I can say the best way I would speak on that is from the wars.
Mm-hmm.
The wars from, World War I to World War II, Vietnam War, Korean War, however you want to look, even the current wars we had, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, all that, whatever. But any war is going to cause a mass amount of trauma to the individual, and vice versa as well, to their family members as well. I mean, think about it. You're gone the whole year. Most of the time, you probably come home maybe 2 or 3 times out of the year. I mean, look at the mass effect.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky. And look at the mass effect that can take upon your family, especially if you're married, you got children. That's trauma in and of itself. That's trauma in and of itself. And whether most know this or not, even in that respect, that can place the individual himself or herself in a state of victimization. And also, it can place their family in the same situation as well. Now, why did I say that? Remember, trauma. We're talking about the trauma that they experience from going through such a thing, whether directly or indirectly, right? So by definition of the trauma, they're what? They're a victim. Why do you think we say thank you for your sacrifice?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
You heard that, right? You know that. Thank you for your sacrifice.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Right there in our faces.
When I was in, I literally had people say to me, thank you for your sacrifice.
Yes.
They still
say that. They still say that when they hear you're a veteran.
Nowadays, you'll hear them say both. Thank you for your sacrifice, or thank you for your service.
Right. Wow.
I'm saying what I experienced. I remember individuals say to me, thank you for your sacrifice.
Me too.
I didn't
and really I never thought about that. Well, okay, you opened Pandora's box.
So basically, well, I'm only stating what I experienced. So basically, I had to ask myself, why would they say thank you for your sacrifice? what in the world did I sacrifice? Except my
Right.
time of being
Your time.
wherever I have to be and this, that. I don't consider it a sacrifice. And when I thought about that, I said, that makes sense. I sacrifice my time.
Your time.
And life in so many ways in relation to the military and other aspects of the military when I could have been doing something else. Something else. So by definition, is it a sacrifice? Yes.
Absolutely.
That's a sacrifice. I mean, my wife at that time, imagine. I mean, think about it. I'm not there. She wants her husband home. She wants her husband there with her. So there's some aspect of trauma to that because what a lot of people don't know, a lot of divorces in the military, whether people want to accept this or not, a lot of them and many of them, from what I've experienced and what I've heard and what I've witnessed myself, was in relation to the fact that their husband or spouses, whether male or female, their spouse was never there.
Never there.
Never there.
Yes.
So that's trauma, isn't it?
It's trauma. Absolutely.
That's trauma.
Absolutely.
To the wife, to the soldier,
the children,
or herself, to their spouse, as well as to the children.
To the children. Yes.
Yeah, that's still trauma.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying the military,
and the sacrifice.
Yeah, I'm not saying the military is a bad way to go.
No.
I'm not saying that. That's an individual choice and decision. And I'm not saying that I had a bad experience in the military. My experience in the military was good. There was good moments, and there was not so good moments. What I'm saying is that when you look at it from the aspect of traumatization, you have to be truthful and honest that by being in the military and doing what you have agreed to do,
the sacrifice,
it's the right thing to do. On the other end, it's still going to reverberate as trauma to someone in relation to you at some time. They're not going to always look at it from your aspect as being, hey, the soldier doing the great thing and the wonderful thing. Even let's say that's what you are doing.
Right.
But from their, and you might explain that to them, but from their angle, at some point in their life, from their angle, they're going to experience it as a what? A trauma.
A trauma.
A loss. A trauma, a loss, or interference, however you want to look at it. I mean, we're just speaking truths here.
Right. I mean, when you go back,
we're speaking from experiences.
When you go back to the history of, I went back to the history of the Vietnam War.
Yes.
And the research that I did, it significantly impacted Black families.
Yes.
I mean, everyone that participated in this war, of course, were sacrificed, right? But I'm talking about now. I want to hone in on the sacrifice that the Black families made during the Vietnam War, and so we're talking from the dates of 1954 to 1975. That's a long time.
Long time.
And it was disproportionately sending African-American men to fight in combat roles, which led to higher casualty rates and further exacerbating the existing racial inequalities, as returning Black veterans often faced discrimination, right? When they came back home, they still faced discrimination. They had to now deal with at the very same time, mind you, that the Vietnam War is going on. We're also looking at now the civil rights movement at the same time, and to add insult to injury, the feminist movement. So we had all these three things going on at the same time. So now these men are drafted into the military. They leave their wife and children at home. They go over to fight this war. They're, like we said, disproportionately, they're more on the front lines, the infantry, the artillery, they're the lower ranks. So we know what that looks like. And they're gone. Now the wife is at home with the children. And back then, well, before then, most of the women were at home taking care of the children. The husband was working, you know, had that family structure, that family unit. And now he goes off to war, and we know what GIs were making at that time. What?
Absolutely.
Nothing.
Yes.
So now the wife, in order to keep the home running, she now gets a job.
Yes.
So now she's out of the home.
Think of the trauma on the kids.
Trauma on the kids, that is
Yes.
gone. Now mom has to take on a job.
Absolutely.
Mom is feeling some sort of way because her husband is over there and now she has to go to work and leave her children. And just at that same time, the feminist movement, the second wave, mind you, of the feminist movement now comes in at that time. And now she's now learning, okay, you know, equal rights and all of this stuff. And then guess what? Now it's time for husband to come home. Husband comes home if he makes it home alive and not in a body bag, right? So he makes it home. So many of the Vietnam vets came back home with, back then, what they called it was shell shock, which we know as PTSD.
PTSD,
so
that's correct.
They come home with severe PTSD. Many of them can't even function, can't find a job. You're now dealing with PTSD. You're dealing, some of them, with physical disabilities, maybe amputations. And now the wife is looking at the husband. He's messed up mentally. He may even be on heroin because the heroin epidemic was going on at that time as well. Vietnam vets. So he comes home, he's messed up mentally, he's now on drugs, can't find a job. And now she's hearing in her ear, oh yeah, equal rights, and you know, you can do this, and you know, that, what was that that poster that was always around with the woman with her sleeve rolled up and showing her muscle, and the breakdown of the family unit begins. And I think that since then, we've been trying to, like we said last week, pick up the pieces, but it was so devastating. And not only that, but the civil rights movement, right? When they come back, they're now hearing from other Blacks, what are you doing over there fighting that war? You know, and they weren't welcome.
And, you know, and to add injury to injury, they had to hear everyone say to them, you're a baby killer. You're a baby killer. Baby killer. While at the same time, they had to deal with the trauma of what? Agent Orange?
Agent Orange.
And there's a lot of research out there that can prove that those soldiers, a great deal of them, especially our people, and many others, they were definitely subjected to Agent Orange and the effect that Agent Orange had on their bodies and things of that nature. And it's so much research out there. Anyone can go and do research on it and see the.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to drop a lot of I have some links to some articles on the Agent Orange and things. I'm going to drop that in the box for the sisters to just look it up, because it's now finally. Did you notice that it's been within the last year or two that people's families, these soldiers' families, are now being compensated for the injuries of their deceased loved ones caused by Agent Orange. It's taken this long for the military to acknowledge that.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, you know, hey, we can. This is conversation that would never have an ending to it.
I know.
It's just so much that we can get into and talk about in relation, and then there's so much that we know that we really can't, but
Not as much as we would like to, right? Not
Yes.
as deep as we would like to go in, but
Exactly.
But like we said, this stuff is on the internet.
Yeah.
All the information is right there.
It's right there.
It's right there. So we're not saying anything that is considered conspiracy theory. It's right there for us to read. All of this that we're talking about is confirmed.
Absolutely.
And then now after Vietnam, the wars continue. So it's a continuous cycle. Like you said, the Desert Storm, the Gulf War, the Iraq War, the war in Afghanistan. And so it's been one war after another. And we just can't seem to catch a break.
And you know what? And hey, let us not forget the war that we have to fight here at home. Among ourselves and
right.
Things of that nature, neighborhoods and
the gang wars.
In and out of from city to city or grocery stores. I mean, all of these things falls in the purview of that criminology, that criminal aspect, and that victimology aspect. All of
the war in your home.
Yeah.
Many people are living in a home where it's a battlefield.
Yeah.
Just right there in the home.
Yes.
Some people feel safer outside of the home than they do in the home.
That's absolutely right.
You walk in the door and shots fired.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is something else. So,
but you know what's interesting? Some might be saying, so what's the solution to this whole thing? And to be honest to everyone, the solution varies.
Okay.
The solution varies. What may be the solution for someone that's a veteran may not be a solution for someone dealing with a serious aspect of traumatization, victimization within the home. Policemen, firemen, they experience the same thing in relation to their jobs as military personnel, as well as the person sitting behind the desk or the individual who's in the kitchen being a cook, professional cook. That's why I say that, the solution, it varies. And then on top of it, it's all going to come from what angle you're coming from. And again, what we said from the beginning, it's going to come down to how transparent you want to be. That's what it's going to come down to. How transparent you want to be. In relation to not just present moment, but even in relation to history. This is an avenue that is so broad, so big that
learning the decisions that we make, right?
Yes, it's so big. It depends on what angle you want to come from.
Right. Like for me, I had 6 years, a little under 6 years left to retire.
Yeah, I did too. About 6 to 8.
Wow. a lot of military stuff in common here. Yes. But what made me walk away was, like you said, the sacrifice. Was I willing to make the sacrifice that they were asking me to make at that time?
You know what, sis? It's crazy that you say that. That is the same reason why I did too as well.
Okay.
That was the same reason why I walked away. Same thing what you're saying. That was the same reason why I walked away as well.
Wow. Yes, the sacrifice that I had requested an overseas assignment to the Azores. And I wanted to do 3 years in the Azores, take my
Okay.
family with me. My son was only a year old. And it came back, my orders came back, and they gave me the assignment to the Azores, but 18 months unaccompanied without my children. I was on my second marriage at that time, without my husband, without my daughter, without my son, who was 1 year old. And I said, can't do it. I can't do it. I can't leave my son. You know, can't leave my daughter. You know, the husband would be okay for 18 months, I think. But
you know what? We might be strong, but I don't think we're that strong.
but my children, 7 and 1 year old. And I said, no, I can't do that. And what they did, they said, well, you have to sign a bar to reenlistment, which means at the end of your term, this current term, you will not be allowed to re-up.
Same thing happened to me.
Whoa.
Isn't that interesting?
Whoa.
Same thing happened to me. Exact same thing.
Wow.
Yeah, because see, at some point in your life, you described it beautifully too. I love the way you described that. You know, because you're looking at it and you go, I have a 1 year old son and my little girl, my husband. Think about that. You have to really be honest and say, if you had did it, what would you have been sacrificing?
My entire family, my peace of mind. My peace of mind, because there was no way I could go overseas and leave my family.
Exactly.
Like I said, my children, especially, and be okay for 18 months. I just couldn't. So I thought of the mental toll that would take on me, the mental toll that it would take on my children, and even my husband.
Yes. Your relationship, your marriage.
Can't do it. And I walked away. And a lot of people thought, oh, wow, you're crazy. You have, 6 years in full retirement. You're still so young. But
I was told the same thing. Wow, you have 8 years, man. Why are you walking away, dude? I mean, come on, bro. I'm like, no, bro, you don't, no.
Yeah, and that was definitely, that really would have been a sacrifice.
And you know what, sis? In the time that I was in and what I did, it wasn't guaranteed for someone like me that I would actually survive that 6 or 8 years. Especially when you're on the front line and things. It's not a guarantee that you're gonna make it to that retirement. That's not a guarantee.
Right.
Yeah.
With the job that you had.
Yeah. Huh?
Or so with the job that you had.
Yes. At some point, you have to be able to look at it and realize that there's a good chance if I continue in this direction, I might not make it back home.
What they call the ultimate sacrifice, huh?
There you go. Yes. Yes. So you have to weigh all these options and just say, hey, I'm done. And then they tell you what you said. Hey, you won't be eligible for this and that anymore.
For enlistment. Okay. Yeah, so I
know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. I experienced that as well.
And I never looked back. I never had any regrets about that decision.
I didn't either.
Zero.
Especially where I am in my life today. I'm so glad I did. So glad.
I agree. I walked away and they paid for my education. When I was in the military, when I was still in the Army, I wanted to go to PA school in the Army. And because of my brokenness, my knees, because I had bad knees, had a profile for the last 8 years where I wasn't allowed to run. They said, well, no, you can't go to PA school here, not in the Army, because the PAs in the Army were they were assigned to field duty.
Field groups, that's correct. That is
Yes.
absolutely correct.
So with my knees, they said you wouldn't be able to perform as a PA in the field duty. So I got turned down. And so I left, and guess what? They paid for me to go to Stanford.
Okay.
No regrets.
Yes, no regrets.
No regrets. So, wow. Like you said, this is a heavy topic that, one of the things that we didn't talk about is the military sexual trauma.
You know, I'm going to say this about that. I'm not gonna say where or give names or dates or time, but there was a situation which I had to. Let me see. I was assigned to an investigation.
Okay.
Where in the military, at a certain time, at a particular base, there were more women at this base than there were men. And believe it or not, men were being victimized.
Oh, wow.
By women on the base because there was a lack of men. There was approximately like 7 or more women to every one man.
Oh, my.
And men were being
That's unusual.
victimized. This was like in the early 80s, in the 80s. And men were being victimized. And when we got the case and heard of it, we was like, this can't be true. There's no way. You don't want to accept the fact that, oh, come on, this can't be real.
Wow.
But through the outcome of the investigation, it was proven that with all the evidence, forensic evidence, all the evidence, it was true. It was happening. Men were being victimized by women. If you understand and know what I'm saying when I say victimized.
Yes.
So, and you would think that that surely that would not leave a bad aftertaste in a man's mouth or in his life in relation to that.
Oh,
Come
yes,
on.
it does.
No way. But we found that was not the case. Men were just as much traumatized by something like that happened to them as well if it happened to a woman.
Absolutely.
It was, and you know what the crazy thing about it? Many of them did not want to talk about. We found there was, it was very few cases, but after doing an extensive investigation, we found that this had been happening for a very long time. It was recurring and happened for a very long time, and there was many, many men that were victimized. That had been there and gone, and new group come and go, but no one never knew about it until the men that were victimized started coming forward with it, because no one wanted to talk about it because they felt that they will be looked at as a weakling or in some other way.
Yes. They'd be ridiculed.
Yeah, ridiculed
right?
as well.
Man is going to complain about quote unquote being taken advantage of by a woman.
Yeah.
I've had patients, same thing. And the men, it's much more difficult for them to come forward with these complaints because of how they're going to be looked at.
Exactly.
And they suffer.
Absolutely.
They suffer with this trauma, PTSD as well.
As well, yes. Yes. And you know what's crazy? It was hard for me to, as an investigator, to even accept the fact that it was happening. I was saying, surely this is not. Surely this can't be real. This come on. And throughout the investigation, we found that it was very much real.
Mhm.
And that alone was very shocking to me.
Shocking.
It was shocking to the point to
Wow.
where
And these were
it
more.
traumatized me a little bit.
Yeah, I can imagine, because that's not something that's common, right?
Yeah, it's not
We're
common.
accustomed to
Unheard of.
hearing about women being, the victims of sexual assault. Very
Yes.
rarely do we hear about, but now, especially now that we're hearing about this whole thing with what's going on in Hollywood and so on and
Yeah.
so forth, we know that this stuff is.
Your camera froze, I believe.
We lost connection there for a minute.
Oh, okay, then I'm back. Okay, I'm sorry about it. I don't know
Oh,
what happened.
no. I didn't know if it was my. I don't know if it was my connection.
Okay,
But
then.
no, I was saying, now that we hear about everything that is going on in Hollywood, which we've heard, throughout the years, but now the lid is really coming off of it, and realizing that that's not the only place where this happens. The military, I'm trying to think of the word, because it's just this huge playground. Let me just put it that way.
Yes.
It's a huge playground, and these people that are just as anywhere else in positions of power, they use that authority. And when women get in positions of power, they can really go on a power trip now. And I can actually see that happening in the military. I can see that happening.
Yeah, and we experienced that. We were shocked in the investigation finding that many of the female officers were actually doing that. They was using their position of authority to gain these favors from soldiers who were very handsome and whatever, and they were being forced into situations that they really didn't want to be into. And in the greatest of instances, we found that many of the men that was being victimized, it wasn't like it was one female that was doing it. It was a group of them that overshadowed the individual and forced the individual into this particular avenue. Yes. So it was very
disturbing.
It was very interesting. It was very disturbing as well. And even then, it was just still hard to believe that it was taking place.
Wow. Okay. I can see it. I can see it happening. I hadn't heard of it, but looking in hindsight, I can see that happening.
Yes.
Because of just the power structure, and we had young boys that are coming 17 years old, just like myself, 17 years old.
Absolutely.
And you have these sergeants, first sergeants, that just take advantage of you being young and naive. Threats with Article 15s being written up, having rank taken from you. And the other thing that I faced in the military, because I joined the Army, like I said, 17 years old, leaving the Virgin Islands, leaving a small island, coming into the United States for the first time, started out in Alabama, and had never really dealt with discrimination, racism on my little island. But coming into the military now, that was a culture shock. It was a huge culture shock coming into the military and facing blatant discrimination for the first time from not only the soldiers. My graduating class was the last graduating class of the Women Army Corps. We were the last of the Women Army Corps. And imagine being in the barracks, these women and, you know, catfighting and everything else. But now to add on top of that, the discrimination and threats from first sergeants that you'll never get a rank, you know, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Otherwise, you'll never get a rank in this military. And I had a couple of situations where I actually took my rank off of my collar and I handed it to him.
Wow.
I'm not going to do that. Oh, go ahead and put that rank back on, soldier.
Wow.
Yeah, I did. I did. You're asking me to do things that I know that is against my regulations. And I said, no, I took my rank off and handed it to him. Sometimes we just have to learn how to stand for something. Let's see. Are we looking at some of the questions here? Let us see what these questions look like. Let's see. Are you able to see the chat?
Yes, I can see them.
Sister Jeanette said, I ordered my book already.
Huh?
The Waterford, one of the sisters ordered her book. One of the sisters ordered her book.
Oh, wow. Great.
Yes. The water for the book. Great information. Yes. Don't forget the war at home. War and rumors of war. Yes. Let's see here. Like I mentioned, power changes the rules on the human physical plan. That's Sister Diane. Sister Sierra says, so sad the trauma that happened to the men and women over the years, completely and utterly shattering us both to create the divide we see today. Yes. Yes. And that trauma leads to, like we said, victimology and criminology.
So here's the thing. So many may say, how could the criminology be an impact as a result of being a victim? Well, the answer I would say to that would be this. As a result of not being able to deal with the victimization and understanding how one became a victim and to what extent, what normally happens to a person when that happens to them? That's the trauma that they experience. They begin to, if they don't seek help, whether it be medical, psychological, however it may be, if they don't seek help, what do? They begin to perpetrate the same criminal act upon others that was done upon them. So now you have what? Criminalization. That's another cycle that started. And some might say, well, it's the same cycle. No, it's a different cycle at a different degree.
Yes. Yes.
So if the person, if the individual doesn't get help, at some point in their life, two things will happen. They'll begin to commit the exact same crime or something even more, or their inability to cope with what has taken place in their life. What do? Suicide is one of the things on the table that they're confronted with.
Yes.
Or both of them.
Or suicide, homicide. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the veteran suicide rate it keeps going up.
Yes.
It,
Yes.
it,
Most definitely.
it keeps going up. It says it's an ongoing phenomenon. It's a very high rate, and because people are, a lot of the soldiers from like Vietnam wars, they're getting older. They have, some of the soldiers are coming out of these wars disfigured. They're coming back not only with the mental PTSD, but a lot of physical traumas, amputations. And I can speak about when I was in the military. Back then, things were quite a bit different than they are now, because with
Yes.
I went in a bit about my story. And I got married. Well, I met my husband at 18 years old and got married at 21. And the abuse started almost immediately. And we're talking about last week, I talked about the different types of breaks. And I used the analogy of a broken bone, where you can have a simple fracture. And a simple fracture is just where you get what's called like a hairline fracture.
Yes.
And it heals quickly. It doesn't leave any, visible scars. A lot of times you're able to just go on and never even think about that fracture again. And then there are these other fractures, like the compound fracture, where now you not only have a break in the bone, but the bone is snapped in two and it protrudes out of the skin. So now you have a break in the skin. You have, where now, because this is so severe, you have to go in and you have to do surgery, put in plates and pins to stabilize that bone. We're talking about major surgery. And now, because of that break in the skin, it becomes visible. And so that is a compound fracture, where the break is not underlying. So when you think about a compound fracture, when you're dealing with it from the emotional aspect, a lot of times if we're being emotionally or verbally or mentally abused, we can go about our day and mask it and pretend as though this isn't going on. And you can really fool people. But when you now have the other layer on top of that, which is the physical abuse, where now you have the black eyes, you have, you're in a sling, you're limping or what have you, but there are now visible scars outside. Now it's more difficult to hide that trauma. We're talking about a compound. We're talking now about a compound fracture, right? And basically that was the case with me. I had a compound fracture. And so my break was pretty significant. And I was young. I didn't understand any of this. What is going on here? I couldn't understand. This is somebody that I love. This is somebody that said that they love me. And the trauma was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And one of the incidences was trauma to my abdomen when I was pregnant. And so my daughter was born early because of the trauma, a kick to my abdomen. And the other was where I woke up in the middle of the night with my face being cracked. Let me put it that way. And so it was a vicious cycle. But experiencing that and not having the support, and that was what was so strange to me, is that there was really no support for me. My husband was now a civilian, and I was being told, oh, you have to control your dependent, right? And so experiencing that, I now started having thoughts, okay, how do I prevent this from happening again? How do I prevent, if I wake up in the middle of the night with this going on again, what do I do? So of course, you're now having thoughts, how do you protect yourself? And that's where I was. How do I protect myself from this situation? And so when you're talking about that fine line between the victimology and the criminology, that's where people start thinking, okay, if this happens to me again, this is my solution to this issue. And I just thank the Most High that the thoughts, I never acted on any of those thoughts. Never acted on any of those thoughts, but just the fact that those thoughts were in my head and that I'm thinking that this is an option to protect myself. And that's how so many people end up on the criminal side, right? The criminal side, because now they're just thinking about survival. They're thinking, I have to protect myself. And they wake up and they're in prison.
Absolutely. You know what, sis? I think one of the things I would like to do here is kind of give everyone an overview of what victimology is according to definition as well as criminology. So victimology definition and meaning from Merriam-Webster dictionary, it says here, victimology, the scientific study of crime victims, including the study of the relationship between victim and offender, and of the consequences and effects of being victimized. Victimology is often considered a subfield of criminology, as I said, criminology. And the two fields do share much in common, just as criminology is the study of criminals, which is true. What they do, why they do it, how the criminal justice system responds to them. Victimology is the study of victims or sacrifice.
Wow.
Victimology then is just that they say victimology is the study of that etiology.
The etiology.
Which is, etiology is the causes. What caused this person to become a victim? Interesting, huh? What caused this individual to become a victim or individuals of victimization? Its consequences, how the criminal justice system accommodates and assists victims, and how other elements of society, such as the media, deal with crime victims. Also, characteristics of a particular criminal victim or victims. Victimology may include the victim's age, gender, race, occupation, physical attractiveness, relationship status, and perceived vulnerability. To name a few, sometimes there's an identical likeness in victims chosen by serial offenders, and sometimes there is not. Usually disparaging the claim that the problem of a person or group are the result of that person or group having been victimized. In chronicling Zelda Fitzgerald's sad life, Nancy Milford made clear that part of Zelda's undoing was her inability, despite her ambitions, to successfully transform her life into art. Instead, she remained raw material for her husband refining. And stripping the glamour off the famous couple's self-immolation, Milford was credited by some and pillarized by others for having inaugurated a new class of feminist biography. Guess what it is? Victimology.
Victimology. Wow.
Victimology. But Gerstmann says this encouraged judges to engage in historically incoherent exercise of competitive victimology to decide which minority groups, listen to this, what groups? Minority groups have been more oppressed than others.
Okay.
So in a sense, what are they saying? Yeah, you all are sacrifices.
Sacrifices.
For someone who's in a higher position than we are, we're the one being
sacrificed,
becoming the sacrifice for their purposes.
For their purposes.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yep.
And that goes back once again to that whole thing with the Vietnam War.
Yes.
Right? Because when they were coming back, when the soldiers were coming back, that's what they kept hearing is that, why are you over there fighting this war that has nothing to do with you when there's a war right here?
Yes.
That involves you. You're over there fighting this war for what? It was for someone else's greater purpose, not for your greater purpose, but for someone else's, because we had our own war going on here. Wow. That opens so many doors. Oh my goodness. And so what ends up happening now when you become this sacrifice, this victim / sacrifice, is we talked about the cycle until you recognize that something is not right. Something is not right. And you now decide you have to get off of this cycle. And what does that look like? For some people, it's going into therapy. For some people, end up on medications. Therapy, like you said, some people self-sabotage, self-harm. But
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Before we had our dialogue, you and I,
yes,
during Tabernacle, and certainly before we had this pod interviewing, if I had came to you, you told me about certain things in your life, and I came to you and said, wow, did you know that you were a sacrifice for someone else's purposes? What would your answer would have been?
I would have taken that into consideration, and I probably would have said, now that you say that, yes.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, most people that I will ask that question to, I found that they would say this: I'm not nobody. I'm not a sacrifice. They immediately go into a defense mode. And protection.
And that's because go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say about that.
I was going to say that's because they haven't gotten to a place of healing.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. They haven't got to a place of healing.
When it took me 18 years after my husband's death for me to even understand what I had experienced. Why? Because once again, going back to the show last week, I talked about when you're broken, one of the things that you do is you may develop an alter ego.
Absolutely. Now we get to where you got to answer that question for me.
My alter ego was, oh wow, I'm out of the military. I went to school. I went to one of the most prestigious schools in this country. I'm a PA now, and so now I get to put on this white coat and I get to go to work to help others. And so my brokenness was not welcomed in that arena. You don't bring you don't bring your brokenness into a clinic.
Yes.
Because you've got broken people that you have to fix.
Yes.
So my brokenness had to take a back seat to other people's brokenness. So I'm there fixing everybody else up, and then I go home and I'm like still broken, right?
Still broken.
Yes. And I mean, I knew I should have recognized something, because when I got married the second time, I went into my second marriage, with ultimatums. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. Because if you do this, this, and this, then I'm out of here. You're out of here. Who does that? Who goes into a marriage with ultimatums, right? That's right. I was unbendable. And I don't know if it's because I thought that if I bend, I would break. But little did I know was that I was already broken. Right? I was already broken. And so even after my second marriage, that didn't last 2 years. And I just kept going. I kept going until one day, and it was 18 years. I remember this so clearly. After my first husband had died, the one that was abusive.
Sis, excuse me one moment. Let me go ahead. Sure. Let me get my charger, because it's telling me my computer is battery is low. I need to plug it in so it can charge.
I'll wait for you. Okay. I'll go ahead and look at some of the questions.
Okay.
So let's see what we've got here, my sisters. Let's see. I hope that you all are enjoying this conversation. Let's see. Double entrades intendis. Thank you for your sacrifice. Yes. My goodness. It almost sounds offensive, but when you think about it, you are a sacrifice. Yes. We can't deal with just titles and names. We just have to look at it for what it is. And when you break it down, yes, that is a sacrifice. Absolutely. Sister Diane says, Christ was a sacrifice for our sins. Khan. Sister Sarah says, we are enjoying it. All praises, all praises. Isn't this incredible? I mean, he is just a wealth of information. Just a wealth of information. I am so thankful that he was able to spare some time for us tonight. Sister Jeanette says, Consis, enjoying this broadcast. All praises. The water. So he is, he fell off there, and I'm sure he'll be right back. He will be right back. So sisters, talk to me. What questions do you have? Start posting some questions for David in the comment box if you have any questions. Please, please, please. Sister Zion says, yes, a wonderful broadcast. The water, sis, the water. Wow. Wow. Sister Sierra, I got your text. Khan. Wow. Yeah, this is open, and this is going to be so therapeutic, because so many questions are being answered, and that's how I felt when I spoke to him the first time. And you said, I'm ready to read that book. So am I. I'm going to order that book as soon as I get off of this broadcast. I have to have that book. Yes, it must be. Yes, I have to read that book, especially with the work that I've done and continue to do, actually, because I still do on the personal side get calls from individuals that need help in certain areas. So I definitely need to have that book. I have to have that book. Looks like he's trying to come back in. Here we go. I'm going to bring him back in. All right, you're back.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
No worries at all.
I didn't plug my computer up.
No worries at all. I was going through the comments.
I know one probably said, look at this. Look at him. He just made himself a victim of his own computer.
No, the computer is feeling victimized.
Yeah. And they probably said also, he committed a criminal act upon the computer because he didn't plug it. He gotta have
plug it in. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But yeah, I was saying that, I was this madness about these ultimatums and afraid that if I bend, I'd break, not even realizing that I was already at a state of brokenness. And so that's where the alter ego kicked in. And, I'm going to work. And then, like I said, 18 years later, after the death of my first husband, I had my, what I used to call my aha moment. But I now call it my AHAYAH moment. It's not my aha moment anymore. And that's where I realized, oh my gosh, your husband he's been dead for 18 years. And everything that he said, you're allowing it to come to pass. If I can't have you, no one else will. And I just realized, oh my goodness, I am being controlled by someone that is no longer in the land of the living. And that was a huge wake-up call for me. And that's when I started to do the work. Because while I was in the service, we were ordered by the base commander, the post commander, to go to counseling. And when we went to counseling, the response that I got and the response that he got, the psych tech sympathized with him and said he made a comment about what he has to do to keep his wife in line. And at that point, that's when I walked out. And that was the extent of my counseling. And after that, I never sought counseling. I never sought any treatment whatsoever. And so I never had a diagnosis of PTSD, although I had the symptoms of PTSD. But that 18 years later, so imagine going for 18 years. So during that time, if you had asked me that question, do you think that you were a sacrifice? It would have been, of course not. Of course not. Because I had a reputation to protect. I had my alter ego that was showing up for me, that would allow me to take a break while it goes to work. Does that make sense? We can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can't hear you, Ak.
There we go. There we go.
There you go.
So, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself, if you accept the fact that you were a sacrifice, now you have to ask yourself, who's sacrificing me?
Who sacrificed me?
Who's sacrificing you?
I
If you
did.
listen to what you just said, the last thing you just said about the alter ego, you're going to work and blah blah blah. That question comes there. So if this concept of victimization is a sacrifice, then who is doing this sacrifice to you?
While I was in that
Yes.
that state?
Yes.
Well, I would say, first of all, because of my disobedience, and that's a whole other story right there. Because of my disobedience, I offered myself.
Absolutely. See, that's what's called transparency. You're very transparent. You're being honest in relation to how that took place, and as a result to that, that is one of the most effective stages of healing. But here's the crazy part. That's not something that's not a avenue of healing that you'll find in a reputable institution today. You won't find that aspect of healing as an approach to healing.
Nope.
But I have found through the years that type of healing right there is more effective when a person realizes the true nature of what took place with themselves and how it happened, to what extent it happened, when they're totally transparent with themselves and others in relation to what took place. The healing process, it begins.
Amen. Yeah, and that's what had to happen with me, because like I said, I went through those years of he did this, he did this, he did this. But then when I had that AHAYAH moment, I would say.
You ain't the only one had that moment, sis. You ain't the only one had that moment.
I had to start looking at, like I said, going back to the beginning, because I was tired of the same pattern, repeating things over and over again.
But
different
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry, but could I ask you a question? You see what you just said a few minutes ago? So what were you doing? What were you doing when you was doing these things before you said that AHAYAH moment? What were you doing?
What exactly was...
You was acknowledging, you were acknowledging that you were a what? A victim.
A victim. A victim.
By acknowledging that you were a victim, you agreed that you were sacrificed, and therefore because you were blaming him for a lot of things, by doing that, you were agreeing that you were a sacrifice, and you took on a persona of a victim, and therefore, by taking on that persona as a victim, you start to use that as a means of protection, not knowing that taking on that persona, it wasn't protecting you. It was making you more of a sacrifice than you can imagine.
Exactly. It was, because you attract, you start attracting that perpetrator.
Absolutely.
And that's how and I did not learn this until after I had my AHAYAH moment.
Absolutely.
I was at work. I was working at a drug rehab facility.
Okay.
And one of the therapists was standing behind me, and he was talking to someone else. And he said, I just completed my domestic violence counselor training. And I turned around really quick and I was like, you did what? I wasn't trying to be a domestic violence counselor. Really, at that point, I don't even remember if I even knew at that point that there was such a thing until I heard him say that. And it was like my spirit just leaped when he said that. And he came over and he started telling me about the training. And I said, I have to do that. And I signed up for this domestic violence counselor training. And that's when I learned about the cycle of violence. I learned that everything that I experienced in my marriage, all of the abuse, that it was actually a cycle that other women had also experienced. And it was like the perpetrators have this playbook. It's like they're given this rule book on how to play the role as a perpetrator. And now the victim has a book to learn how to play this role as a victim.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because the patterns, when you talk to one victim, you hear the same pattern when you go talk to another victim. When you talk to a perpetrator, you hear the same pattern. They follow that same cycle. And that was so eye-opening for me. And that's what started me on the path to my healing, learning that forgiveness was absolutely necessary. That was the key. And having to navigate my way through that. What does that look like as far as forgiving? Because I was of the mindset, oh, you have forgiven him. There's no way that you didn't forgive him. You went to the funeral. Doesn't that show that you forgave him? And no, it didn't. And so now it required me to do work. And was it easy? Nope. It was not.
And you said something interesting. It requires for you to do work. You'll find that many will come to that realization that it's going to require that you do work. And guess what? They'll opt out. They'll opt out of that. They'll choose not to do the work. They'll choose not to do the work so they can remain a victim. Because the way society set this thing of being a victim, they've set it up in such a way to where there's what's the word I'm looking for? Like purviews. You're a victim. You can get this.
Resources. There's resources. Yes.
You get this. If you attribute yourself to this victim role, you can get this. You can get that. You can get this, that. And many others will stay in that cycle, even though the victimization is no longer happening to them. They'll stay in that cycle by victimizing others as a result to get what they want.
Right. And I saw that. I saw that a lot.
Yeah, you see that
in
a
my
lot.
Patients. And working in the prison, I saw that also, even with the perpetrators.
That's right.
You know, they did not care that it was a revolving door. They'd leave and they'll be back in 3 months.
Absolutely.
The same cycle over and over and over again.
Absolutely. And they would even result to doing something even more extreme, just to even get even a bigger perk of resources.
You know, that being said, when I worked in the prisons, this was in California. This was back in, let's see what year, this was way back, early 2000s. And we had transgenders coming into the prison. And they come in, they're on their hormones.
Yes.
Right? And then when they come in, they weren't able to get their hormones, and they'd start, transitioning back to, to who they really are, right?
Yes.
And it was a revolving door. They'd come in, but when they came in, they started demanding that they get their hormones while they're in there. And before you knew it, the state went ahead and started giving them their hormones. And so now, so that they don't have to pay for it out there, they'd come back in. It was once
come
again a
back in.
revolving door
Yeah.
because they can come in and they can get their treatments for free.
Absolutely.
And then it got to the point where now they were doing the surgeries. Do you know how many of these people we saw that would violate to come in just so that they can get?
Absolutely. You see,
The
they
surgery.
started now to become criminals for the sole purpose of getting the perks to have themselves
perks.
become something else.
Perks.
So in effect, they have agreed to be what? The perfect sacrifice.
Very, very interesting. When you start looking at these things with
A sacrifice
with different
don't
eyes.
absolutely, it does not necessarily mean something dead. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. It don't mean something dead. The most perfect sacrifice is one that is alive. One that's alive and that's perpetrating this aspect or avenue of criminology on others.
On other people.
For the sole purpose of them masking the fact that they're the victim. They don't want to know that they're the victim. They don't want to know that they're the victim. No, I'm not. You tell me you're a victim. They want to accept that. And it's crazy. They want to accept the fact that you tell them that they're the victim, but deep down inside they know that they are. But they would like to use that for the sole purpose of getting what they want. See, they'll use the victimization to get what they want, as long as you don't tell them that's what they are.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's crazy. Because now if you tell them that, they got to look at the air of the fact that they are criminals.
Right.
You see? So it's a crazy thing, It's really tricky.
Wow.
So I say this because for those of us who our eyes are open, we have to be careful in this thing of being, I'm the victim. We have to be careful in that. We're in a time now where we have to actually look at ourselves and be brutally honest,
right,
and truthful, and that's what you call transparency, the real transparency, the real transparency. If we really truly want to heal, we have to do that. We have to be honest about it all, because until we do that, the aspect of healing doesn't really take place.
No.
We're just simply masking the issue and building another, as you said so well, another persona on top of a persona.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize it. And when you
absolutely,
first of all, they have to get to a place where they want to heal.
You're
because,
absolutely
like
right.
we said,
Right.
There's some people just they don't want to do the work. They think it's too hard, or they really like the attention that they get from being the victim.
That's interesting you say that. That is true right there. That's true. Many choose that route.
Yeah.
And you got those who choose that route and they don't even know they're choosing that route.
Right.
Well, I would say they don't know. They would they'll have you believe that that's not what they're doing. But in reality, it is. The attention, getting the attention.
Yes, the attention.
Yes, right.
So, wow. Yeah, they have because so many times we're trying to impose it on them. Like, you need to heal. You need to get to this place of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you something, these people will wear you down.
Yeah.
Because they will always come back with a reason why they cannot.
That's right. Because they want to accept the fact that they need to heal. To them, they're saying, why I need to heal. There's nothing I need to heal from.
Right.
Because in their mind, everything they do, they feel that is correct.
And it's justified.
It's justified, it's correct, because they're getting what they want in relation to that.
But you don't know what I've been through. You hear, but you don't know what I've been through. You don't know,
Yeah.
you don't know, you don't know what he did. You don't know what she did. You don't know what they did.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? Oh, there's nothing I can do. Or I
Absolutely.
can't forgive. I've heard this as well, because that
Absolutely.
just means that they get away with what they did. They get away with it. Well, no.
But you know, sis, you know, because of our higher moments, we
Mhm.
know what the real issue really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sister Zion says my something is on the way. Let me see. My transparency is the yes, transparency is the key. Khan. Wow, the attention from being a victim is so true. Yes. Yes, I've seen it in and out of psychiatric hospitals. You know, the cut-ins, the I want to harm myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's in and out. We fix you up for a minute and then you're back, because guess what? You don't want to do the work. It's the same thing in the prisons. They, you know, I'd see inmates come in, and while they're in the prison, they're reading the Bible and they're, you know, talking the talk in there about, oh yeah, you know, I'm reading the Bible and I'm doing so much better, and then they leave and then they're back. Well, what happened? Oh, you know, I got caught up again. Oh, you stopped reading the Bible when you went out there. Oh, you know, it's just that revolving door, because people don't want to do the work. Sometimes it's because of the environment that they're in.
Yeah. Environment plays I'm glad you brought it, because environment, it does plays a large effect upon all of this. And when it comes to victimization criminology,
Mhm.
yes, that plays a great part in it as well.
Yeah. Some women have nowhere to go. They, okay, if I leave, I have no money. This is the person that takes care of me financially. What do I do if I leave? So that's an issue as well.
So, in respect, regard that you say that. So you see what happened right there. Even that little bit of scenario right there.
Mm-hmm.
The individual is choosing,
Mm-hmm.
because of the environment, to remain a what?
Sacrifice.
A sacrifice, a victim. So,
Mm-hmm.
in a great respect, it's like you take a person and place them in an area, and they have no way out. Well, it seems they have no way out,
Right.
but there's always a way out. We both know
Always
that.
a way out.
There's always a way out. But because of the direction that you have to take in order to get out, it doesn't bring no immediate gratification. So
Right.
therefore, a choice is made to remain in. So they
Mm-hmm.
begin to say, whether they know it or not, it's better for me to be a sacrifice or victim than to be anything else. Because at least here, I know what I'm receiving.
I know
And
what
I know the comfortability that I have here. While at the same time complaining about the crime, the criminology that's being opposed upon them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
See?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're waiting for that person to change.
Yeah.
They're waiting for that person to change, and
They don't realize
that never happens.
happen. Because that change is all about themselves, not the other
Mm-hmm.
party.
Right.
It's not even about the environment. It's about oneself. The
Wow.
willingness, the ability to do so is there. But as you said earlier, it comes down to wanting it. You got to want that. And if they don't want it, what do you have?
There's nothing you can do. You can't
Absolutely.
do it for them. You can't do it for them. And so it gets to the point where either they're going to do the work or they're not. Those are the only two options.
Absolutely.
And for a lot, unfortunately, for a lot of the people that I've seen throughout my career, and I'm like I said, I'm pretty transparent. Even with my patients, I will share, not in depth, but I will let them know, look, I had to do the work. And what I'm telling you is, I'm telling you this because I've done this, and this is what works. You have to get to this place of forgiveness, forgiving the person or the persons that committed the act against you, whatever that may be.
Yes.
Forgiving yourself
Yes.
for the role that you played. But if you're not acknowledging that you played a role,
Absolutely.
then you're going to miss that step. And that's a necessary step.
Mm-hmm.
And then also repentance and asking forgiveness now for the role that you played in harming others.
Mm-hmm.
Because until you acknowledge that in your brokenness, because
Mm-hmm.
we know hurting people hurt others. So while you are wallowing in your sorrow as being a victim, you don't even realize that you're inflicting injury unto others.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so coming to that place where now you realize, I need to forgive myself, forgive the person or persons that did harm to me, repent for and ask forgiveness of the ones that I harmed. And until you're able to do those things, you're not going anywhere. You're stuck.
And all of this leads to one thing, one thing, because you'll hear this from everybody, most likely in the world. Everyone wants to be free, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone says, I want to be free, freedom. But they don't understand. A lot will not accept the fact that freedom has a price to it. And that price of freedom is not what most people think. The price of freedom is truthfulness. It's being honest.
Amen.
Truthfulness, being honest. That's the price of freedom from all the trauma in your life. If you truly want to be free from that trauma and the victimization of others and criminal acts upon others, that freedom from those things requires truthfulness.
Amen.
It requires that. Otherwise, you never escape.
Wow. Oh, this was good. This is good. Oh my gosh. So that's why that's the reason why I do what I do. That's the reason why I do what I do.
I think that's the reason why I do what I do too. I mean, to whatever extent, hey, I mean, all I do is sit behind a computer and do analyst work, but my work is always in the field of intelligence and criminology. I'm constantly looking at things across my desk daily that requires me to look at this and look at that and try to figure out for my clients or in what direction they should be operating or going as a result of bypassing any injury or harm that may come to them in the aspect of their daily lives. So, but even in that, everything we talked about, you still have to address and do. The only difference is my client is free from doing it, where it's my job to do it for them now.
For them. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
I have to look at all this stuff and determine what would be the best avenue for their safety.
For them.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
And because of everything, I have to take on the brunt of the victimization and criminal act. Here's the reason.
The sacrifice. The sacrifice.
Yeah, I'm still the sacrifice.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Wow. Yeah, so I've been, even in my throughout my career, since I got to that place of healing, it's like now I can see whether I worked in an urgent care, no matter what department I worked in, my eyes, my spirit, I could tell when someone was in that state, when they're saying one thing and out of their mouth, and it's their actions is not adding up with what's coming out of their mouth.
Absolutely.
I could spot someone with that victim mentality, and I could spot that someone with that perpetrator mentality.
Yeah.
And I've done in that field, started doing workshops with women to help them with awareness. And I would always get this question, well, are you going to do work with men as well? And I was like, well, I don't know what it's like to be a man. So, but then the Most High put me in to work in the prisons.
Yes.
And because my husband died so young and left me with no answers as to why he was the way he was, I then started asking questions of the inmates that were in there. What got you into this place? And that started kind of opening my eyes to what he must have experienced, because there's no way that anyone can be that, I don't want to use that word, evil, but that's what it boiled down to, right?
Yeah.
Unless something evil had happened to them.
Absolutely.
And so now what that allowed me to do is to now, instead of being angry and hateful, I started having empathy for him. He was gone. There was nothing that I could do at this point, but I had to develop that empathy to get me to the place of forgiveness, because it's really hard to forgive someone that you hate. So I had to get out of that hate mindset and delve into the empathy. What did he experience in order for him to do the things that he did?
And you said the key word, empathy. You nailed it. Empathy. Mm-hmm. Until we begin to empathize and be sympathetic to others, we'll never be able to grasp the true nature of what has happened to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because when you're operating from hate, you now become them. The same person that you hate, you now become.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Yeah, so getting to that place of empathy was so important in my own recovery. And I know that based on the fact that I had not gone through therapy, I had not ever been on a medication, not saying that, for people who have taken that path, that there's anything wrong with that as far as getting into therapy. But it wasn't my journey. My journey was, I just started delving into the Bible and learning about forgiveness. And that was my path. That was my path. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to the Most High. I wouldn't change anything. Some people want to go back into they say I would go back and change this and change that. And the only thing that change will do is make things different, but it's not necessarily going to make guaranteed that it's going to make it better. That if you go back and change anything, that where you are today would be better. And I love where I'm at in my life today. All praises to the Most High.
I do as well.
So wow, this was so enlightening. Let's see if the sisters have any questions before
Okay.
we let you leave here. Let's see. And
Yeah, because you know me, I got family and kids that are waiting for
yes,
me.
yes,
I
yes.
got a little one that she will not go to sleep until she see her
Oh
dad.
wow, yes. We let us get you to clock out. Yes, transparency is the key. We are acting like Adam, hiding behind the bush, trying to cover our shame. That's a good one, Sister Zion. Oh boy. Proper discernment is also required too. We do need to be able to call a snake a snake. That's right. That is right. So the water.
You're welcome, sister.
This was incredible. And we can't wait to have you back.
Okay.
We'll talk about that. We will talk about that because I have something else planned where I definitely would like you to be back.
Okay then.
So the water, give the family my love.
I will do just that.
Thank you
And I'd
so
like
much
to thank
again.
you as well for having me on your show, as well as everyone else. And I hope everyone learned something or was able to take something from this, dialogue to help them, because my experiences in my life and my education, things of that nature. And I would say the number one thing that really helped me in my life was, as you eloquently put it, that AHAYAH moment. Matter of fact, it's because of that AHAYAH moment that I had a more clear understanding about everything. It really was because of that. Because I knew all these things about victimology criminology, but it was never clear to me in the manner which I know today until that AHAYAH moment happened. Then everything it became very clear to me, and as a result of it, it enhanced my understanding of a great deal of things in relation to victimology and criminology, and overall the aspect of the kind of work that I do. So I'm very grateful. I'm extremely grateful, and as you so eloquently put it, where I'm in my life right now, I will not change it for anything.
All praises.
All praise. And like again, I said, like again, I would like to thank you for having me on your show. And I would like to thank everyone else for having me as well. And I look forward to being on your show again.
Round two.
Round two. Okay, all right.
The water, have a blessed night.
Okay,
and
you
we'll
do
talk
the same.
soon, most high willing. The water.
Okay, all right, the water. Bye-bye.
Shalom.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Wow.
Okay.
I think I can let you out. Let's see.
Okay, then. Oh, I got to leave studio.
Okay.
Bye again, everyone. Thank you so very much.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Thank
Shalom.
you. Here we go. Wow, sisters. Oh my goodness. Another incredible show. Another incredible show. Wow. Wow. Thanks, David, for sharing your expertise. Thank you, David. Excellent discussion. All praises. All praises. Wow. I just knew this was going to be an amazing show, and it was. I don't think we disappointed. All praises. So many of us left the military bruised, battered, and broken physically, emotionally, and mentally, and the road to recovery can be a long one, for some even a lifelong battle. But we must strive, we must continue to strive for wholeness, even those who are in the military. This is not just about the broken toy soldiers, but many of us who have been broken. So sisters, wow, we are at the end of this show. I want a quick reminder of the call to action, the fundraiser that I'm having to purchase equipment for the CPR classes, CPR BLS classes for the body. If it's put on your heart to make a donation for me to purchase the equipment so that we can get everyone in the body certified, please reach out to nothing is too small, a donation to, my Cash App. There's my Cash App. And this is just so we as a body can get CPR certified, get ready for, and wilderness first aid certified because of the times that we're in right now. Thank you all so much in advance. Thank you so much in advance. And so my goal is $3,000 for all of the equipment that is necessary for this task. Thank you all. Thawada. So there's my Cash App. So let's talk about next week's show. Next week's show, Broken Toys, the series, episode 3. Next week's show is Brothers Tell Their Truth. So we are going to have some brothers on the show next week to talk to us about their journeys. And I am going to leave that open for them to discuss their journeys, because we hear a lot from the sisters, but we very rarely hear. It's like David said tonight about that whole situation that happened where these men were being victimized by women, and we don't hear about these things. So I want brothers to come on board and just talk about their journeys. We're still planning for the 3rd annual Shebrew Royalty Summer Tea Party for next year. Keep that in mind. And in conclusion, I hope that you found the information that was presented tonight useful. If you did, please do me a favor and share this video with your sister friends and relatives, and let us grow this channel so that the information can reach Shebrews throughout the 4 corners of the earth, and even those that are not Shebrews but are willing to be a part of our community. We are to let our light shine so that others can be led to the source of the light, sisters. All right? So thank you all so very much. Thank you all so very much for sticking with us tonight, for sticking with us. I know we went an extended time tonight, but know that I love you and always appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to have tea and conversation with me and my guests. Thawada for your support. Know that I'm praying for you. I'm praying for us. So until the Most High brings us back together again, may you prosper and be in good health. And remember, true healing begins inwardly before it is expressed outwardly. Let me just check. Okay, very good. No new messages. So with that being said, I am your hostess, Akwat Kuala Yakaka, a voice of reasoning and justice. Have a blessed night and an amazing week. And if it's the Most High's will, I'll see you back here next Sunday, same tea time, same tea channel. The water, sisters, the water, Akwatiam. I love you all. Shalom, shalom. Ahabatha.